Thank you very much. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for coming. I know it's been a long week. And here's to Casual Connect and a great conference. And thanks for coming. As Drew mentioned, I am here to talk about the other 98% of your audience. So I like to keep it kind of interactive. If you have questions during the panel, I'd be more than happy to answer them. So let's get started. All right. Remember the days when we were only talking about ARPU with 1P? Then something interesting happened over the course of, say, the last 4 years. Whales, minnows, dolphins kind of got in the way of our total audience. So after a period of time, we decided, forget ARPU. Let's add a P to ARPU to get ARPU with 2 Ps, average revenue per paying user. And so by adding a P, we sort of took a P on all the revenue that could be generated from the other 98% of the audience that's never going to take out their credit card. The bottom line is this. Your monetization strategy should include both direct payments and advertising. It's not an either-or decision. I get a lot of objections from publishers that say, oh, I'm not in the ad-based monetization space. I'm only in microtransactions. Well, I'm here to tell you that microtransactions and ads can live as one in harmony. So here are some facts. I think we all know these. I pulled this one from the Casual Games Association for the 2012 report, so this is pretty current. 1 in 5% of social game audience purchase virtual items. Flurry came out with similar numbers for mobile. And then Zynga's been in the news the last couple of days. I don't know if it's a good thing to quote Zynga, but $27 million in ad revenue in the first quarter. That was up 230%. And yesterday I took a look, and it looks like in the second quarter they were up 45% from the previous quarter. So there's no question that ad-based revenue is a viable business and hopefully one that's going to save Zynga if you own their stock. And Jeff Karp, their CRO, said they're going to be ramping up in the next 3 to 6 months their ad sales team. So Zynga is certainly paving the way for a lot of us, but if you're not paying attention to your ad monetization strategy, you should be. You're missing a great opportunity. Here's some other stats real quick in case you aren't sold yet, but again, from the Casual Games Association, 40% of revenue is coming from either ads or offers compared to 60%, so it's already almost a 50-50 split between revenue from microtransaction or in-app purchase and ads. And then over here inside, the Inside Network did a study, and as you can see, the second most preferred payment method is through promotional offers. So there's no question that consumers are adopting this type of payment and they like it. So over the last 6 months, I've talked to a number of publishers, big and small, and I've heard a number of objections, which I'm going to call myths for this presentation. The first one is, I get it all the time, advertising is going to fuck up my game. I'll address that in a moment. Another one is, ads take gamers out of the experience. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. And then, oh, I don't want to cannibalize my paying users. I wouldn't want to either, and you won't after this presentation. And then, of course, revenue's not meaningful enough. If I haven't already persuaded you based on those Zynga numbers, I will in a few minutes. So let's start with advertising is going to F up my game. So if you are even a semi-successful game developer, you've probably been called by 10 to 20 different ad networks asking for your inventory. There are a number of different products, display ads, interstitials, offer walls, achievement ads. And of course, one that I'm going to talk a little bit more about, which is gaining a lot of traction, is rewards-based video. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of choices out there, and if you're not thoughtful about how you deploy an ad-based monetization strategy, yeah, if you do this, you are going to fuck up your game. So don't do this, okay? But actually, I'm going to take a chance right now and try. So what's wrong with this? I mean, we could all figure it out, but the pitfalls you want to avoid when you're doing ad-based monetization is you don't want to interrupt gameplay. So don't interrupt your user. You don't want to make your ads annoying or distracting. That's a no-no. How about not relevant, wrong ad? So make sure the partners, if you're selling direct or you're using partners, that they're targeting effectively. There's always this problem, I don't know if you guys have it, but oftentimes you want to click on a certain button and instead you click on an ad. So we'll talk a little bit about design with regards to how you place your ads. And you don't want to make the gamer feel exploited. So if you're showering your user with ads and not giving them something in return, they tend to get upset and feel a bit exploited. But at the end of the day, with regards to the experience, ads can act as enablers for your game, particularly for the non-paying users. Users engage on their terms when you offer them an ad in exchange for something else, like currency in the game or an item. So ads can be a utility, service. Watch this ad, get some XP, energy, etc. Whatever your game tactic is, if you're using an ad to enable the user to get further in the game, they're happy. So you have to remember that ads are non-paying users' best friends. And in fact, we get a lot of complaints from users when publishers pull the ads off because it keeps them from getting further in the game unless they pay with a credit card. So I'm going to try and show you something online. Usually, so here's Mighty Pirates from CrowdStar. As you can see, the game, there's only one little ad here in the corner, and granted it's pulsating, but it's very much on the side, not intrusive to the game at all, and a user can easily ignore this button. But if they don't ignore it, up pops a quick ad for them to earn 1 Facebook credit. I'm sure you guys have seen this if you played many games, these types of integrations.
They call me.
But this ad pays the publisher, this particular ad with all the engagement involved, pays the publisher on up to $100 to $200 gross CPM. So that's a pretty big number. I don't know if for anyone that's in the video business right now. Stop that, it's a little loud. So anyone in the business right now, if you're doing interstitials, just by comparison, CPMs are running, I think, somewhere from $5 to $15. The metric we use for this particular brand engagement is CPV, cost per view. So every completed view, you get paid as a publisher by the advertiser. And those CPV numbers are, on our average, in the neighborhood of 4 to 6 cents per view. So that equates to about a $40 to $60 CPM on average, net to the publisher. Okay, let me just get out of here. So let's go back to those objections real quick. So interruption. This type of engagement has absolutely no interruption. As we talked about the ad sitting there right on the side, it just sits there kind of by itself, very subtly, and it's a complete opt-in experience by the end user. Whoops. Oh. Not very distracting, pretty subtle, not intrusive to the gameplay whatsoever. It's not a wrong ad. I mean, I obviously picked this particular example because it's extremely targeted, a pirate ad for a pirate game. Of course, you're not going to get that targeted or that connected with each and every game, but we get plenty of demographic and audience demos from our publishers, and then we transfer our campaigns and traffic them accordingly. So if the ad network you're partnering with is doing a good job, you should always have relevant ads running through your network, or your games, I should say. And then there's no way you're going to click on this ad by mistake. So it's right out of the way, as I said, subtle on the side. And then the gamer's not feeling exploited. They opted in, first of all. They asked for the ad. And then secondly, if they complete the view, they get paid. So they're feeling pretty good about it, actually. So I think the point to all of this is one size doesn't fit all with regards to your ad monetization strategy. There has to be some thought put into your strategy. And if I could get 25% of the mind share that goes into in-app purchases and microtransaction be applied to this type of monetization, I'm sure there'll be plenty of very creative and sophisticated ways that we can integrate media into this mass market called video games. And this is one more, I kind of stole this from one of my publishers that shall remain nameless, but one of the things they're doing that's very sophisticated is they're following the user inside the game, and at every pinch point or every pain point, they bubble up a little ad like this, and you get 3 choices. One is you can get help, you can buy it, or you can watch an ad right there on the spot, a 30-second quick clip, and then back right into the game with the item that they're looking for. Okay, so the objection regarding cannibalizing users. The bottom line here is we're in a data-driven business. So you need, as a publisher, to identify who your paying users are and who your non-paying users are. I was talking to a publisher, a very reputable publisher yesterday, who said that they can tell with 85% certainty in 2 days whether their user is going to pay or not. And as soon as they make that confident decision that this user is a non-paying user, it's time to serve them a delicious ad. Here's an example data point. 95% of users who never buy anything in a game after 30 days never buy anything throughout their lifetime. So you should have a metric like that that you can look at and bucket your users in a way that treat them differently than your whales and dolphins and minnows. The paying users should see either no ads or less ads. But again, the 95% of your users that are never going to pay, I think you should start exploring or experimenting with some of these ad products. So I'm sorry to be a little fluffy here. I don't have hard data, and over time we're going to get more data to share with you. But what we're hearing anecdotally is that integrating these types of ads increase engagement. So if you're giving users a reward to engage with a brand, they're going to stick around longer. You're going to retain them longer. You're reducing churn. They stay around. They talk about your game a little longer. They tell their friends come on board. We increase ARPU as a result of monetizing your non-paying users, 1P. And some of these users, if you do it right, the non-paying users sticking around longer might get hooked and eventually become paying users. So again, if you integrate thoughtfully, you should be able to see increased metrics from all of these KPIs. And again, one of my goals is to have much harder data with regards to these metrics, maybe at the next event. So you got to remember, you got to keep your free players happy because no one wants to be a whale in a small community. So free players, non-paying players are an important part of your gameplay. You need to keep them around. This is one way to do that without either spending money, and in this case, you're actually making money while keeping them around. Okay, so the revenue is not meaningful enough. This one, I shake my head every day. A lot of the publishers just don't want to make more money, which sounds a little bit weird to me. Advertisers are finally on board. 4 years ago, this was a little bit new to them. We were getting angry demands for people to get out of the agency's office when we talked about this type of engagement. But we've come a long way in 4 years. And now we're getting 80% rebuys, increased spends from the agencies with regards to these types of engagements. The engagement rates are 3 times as high as they are on television. Positive brand association, so The brand being associated with giving a reward in the game is one that's positive, and agencies love that sort of thing. And then post-view click-through rates are through the roof with this type of engagement as compared with straight display advertising. So we're getting, and then agencies also like the CPV model. They only pay the publisher if the view actually takes place. And they love that a lot more than CPM, where they're not sure whether or not the user actually watched the ad. It's on the side, they don't know what happened. This is a guaranteed view, and they're only paying for guaranteed, for that view. So the point of that slide is that money's coming in, and it's continuing to come in. The other piece of this is that a well thought out strategy, we have publishers right now that are making $10,000 a day or more. Obviously, they have large audiences, but this is significant revenue. So branded videos, as I mentioned, are yielding between 4 and 6 cents, which is, again, $40 to $60 CPM gross. Click-throughs are as high as 20% for this type of engagement, meaning that users are actually, depending on where you put the button that says watch and earn or watch this video and earn some currency, depending on how prevalent that button is, we're getting click-through rates in upwards of 20%. So a lot of money to be made. Completion rates for the videos are is up to 80%. So when users click on these videos, there is intent there, and they definitely want to watch them. Very few don't complete the video. And then finally, a little discussion on who you partner with. So be strategic about, if you're not going to sell the ads directly, which most of you probably are not, be strategic about which ad partners you select. Look at your audience, decide where they're located, and find networks that not only can bring you campaigns in, say, the US, but outside the US if your audience is 50% outside the US. And then let me just show you one other example. This is Toyota in Cartown. So here's another button right here, watch and earn. See right there? Click that, and you're inside a Toyota commercial right now.
This one right here.
And it's relevant. People, this is actually an entertaining commercial for a commercial. I won't make you suffer through the whole thing. Here's a mobile example. We're with Outfit 7, Talking Tom. So as you can see up here on the the left corner button right here, this could be a watch and earn button, in which case, which takes you through a quick video from the advertiser, and then once the video is complete, it says, thank you, you've earned X amount of coins. So concluding, the bottom line is the games have become a mass medium. There's no question about it. We're seeing numbers that rival the internet, rival mobile, rival television for that matter. Agencies have identified it as a mass medium. It's a new channel, and we need to start thinking about how we can maximize the potential. Don't pee on your audience. There's a lot of money there. Take that P out and just think about ARPU with one P. ARPDAU finally came back, and I think that's a more accurate depiction of how you should take a look at your business. It's not an either-or equation. Ad monetization can live in harmony with direct payments. So again, if you're in direct payments and that's all you're thinking about, you should definitely be thinking about your ad strategy as well. Be thoughtful about how you deploy your ad strategy. Don't just throw ads up on a page like I showed earlier. Think about how ads can enable your users to get further in the game, and you will be successful. And then finally, as I mentioned before, it's already happening. If you're not thinking about ad strategy, if you don't have one, you're behind. Many of the top publishers are already in it, and as we saw with Zynga and many other publishers, they're investing a lot more time, a lot more mind share in this type of monetization. So I urge you strongly to think about it if you're not already doing so. And that's it. Am I sticking around for questions, Drew?
Yeah, we're running a little late, but let's try to take 1 or 2 questions.
First off, thank you very much for the presentation.
No problem.
So, two-part question. Would you agree that the day of CPM is largely gone and it's about CPC, CPV? And if so, and I know you're going to say, yeah, in terms of don't do it during the game, but if we agree it's about cost per click, cost per view, if you've got a level up game where you finish level 1, you go to the next, would it make more sense, arguably, to have your ads during the loading screens between levels instead of in-game?
Yeah. So there are a bunch of, as I mentioned on that earlier screen, there are a bunch of ad products that you can choose from, and every game's different, right? So look at the ad product and decide which one fits best for you. Words with Friends does a very good job of a 10-second clip in between turns. I think that's effective. That's a CPM. You know, I saw AppSavvy's doing a lot of this activity-based stuff. That's kind of more of a CPM model. So there are ways to do it. I just don't think that the way it's been done on the web and mobile with display banners, I don't think that's the most effective way, and those are the worst payouts. So you have to ask yourself, is it worth it to alienate my users and have ads on the page if I'm not getting paid that much and it's not really part of the game? These, you know, companies like mine, and there are many others in the space right now, we're really looking to take games as its own product, its own channel, and developed ad products that serve the same needs that the agencies have with every other channel, but integrate in the game effectively.
Thank you.
Okay, we got one more question. I hate to play favorites here, but
hi, do you see advertising in this form ever taking the sole role of monetization for a game?
No. Microtransactions is a very healthy business, despite the reports from Zynga yesterday. Again, it really comes down to the game itself is the core here. Like, if you've got a good game and you incorporate direct payments and ads effectively, they live in harmony. I mean, I see certain games might monetize better in an ad-based way than a microtransaction-based way. But I can't see microtransactions going away anytime soon. I think it's just going to get bigger, actually. Anybody else?
okay. Well, actually, we have one, and that's got to be the end. We've got to move to our next panel.
Yeah, just quickly. For smaller companies that are like indie developers and stuff like that, are there companies like yours or others that can actually help them with integration and integration methods in terms of the SDKs and maybe even some coding suggestions and things like that?
For sure. So we have account managers and product people that are happy to get on the phone with anyone. Obviously, over 4 years, we've learned a tremendous amount about what works best, what converts best. So if you give us a call, we'd be more than happy to take a look at your game and come back with suggestions for your particular game as to what works and what doesn't. We're definitely here to help. We want to blow this thing up. It's already going crazy. So thank you guys very much.